I'll call the meeting to order. This is a regularly scheduled Greer City Council meeting called and convened this evening, February 25th, 2020. Having called the meeting to order, I'd like to ask if you would please to stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then I'll offer an invocation for council following that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, you have blessed us beyond measure today. We thank you for the blessings that you have provided in our lives, and pray that it will make us mindful of those that have not enjoyed the bounty as much as we have today. Lord, we ask that you be with those in our community that need shelter tonight, that need food, that need assistance, that you'll watch over them, and you'll give us a heart and mind for the business that we do tonight to remember all of our citizens. Lord, we thank you for the calling that you've placed upon our lives to be representatives of the people of this fine town. We ask that you'll guide and direct us through the rest of this meeting tonight, that your will be accomplished. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Council, in public forum, we offer an opportunity for citizens to speak to items that are pertinent to the agenda. We have one person to speak in public forum this evening. That would be Mr. Reno Deaton, and I believe Mr. Deaton knows the drill. So if you'll come to the podium, please, sir, and state your name and address for the record, we would appreciate it.
Mayor and Council, good evening. Reno Deaton, I serve as Executive Director of the Greer Development Corporation. Office is located at 111B South Main Street. I also reside here in Greer, 247 Cannon Street, just across the street. If I could approach, Mayor.
Please.
I want to speak this evening on the item B, new business, the proposed redevelopment of the Victor Mill site. I was asked to take a look at what are potential economic impacts for the proposed redevelopment of that site. To place a multi-family development on that site consisting of 356 new households. I think that's about 318 apartments and 38 townhomes. I just looked at direct revenues to the city of Greer and direct spending. I didn't look at those temporary measures like permit fees, licenses, etc., or the temporary jobs that might be created as a result of construction. Looking at the direct numbers then, the potential tax revenue to the city of Greer, as well as business license fee based upon the represented number of 50 million capital investment, 7 new jobs to be created. Comparing that to similar developments here in the city of Greer, Greer will reap about $66,000 annually in those tax revenues. I also took a look at direct spending potential from the project. To do this, I took a sample of the neighborhood using Ezra Business Analyst Online. Took a 0.5 mile radius from the site and compared the current spending levels of that population. And you can see the current spending levels, when you multiply that by 356 new households, will result in $1.7 million in new direct spending in the categories of apparel, entertainment, recreation, and dining out. I think it's safe to assume that because this new development, again with reported price points of about twice the price points of the current rental properties in that neighborhood, could produce much more in terms of disposable income for those residents. So if you look at a factor of 10% more available to spend, or even 25% more available to spend by those new residents, that would take that direct spending number in those three categories from 1.7 million to 2.1 million annually. Of course, there's no guarantee that we would capture all that here in Greer, but I certainly like our chances. Mayor, lots of information that you'll hear tonight on this project. I'm happy to answer any questions now or at any time it would be pleasing to council. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Before he leaves the podium, any direct questions? Just a quick glance here at the information. Thank you. Council, your packet contains the minutes of the meeting from February 11th. I'll entertain a motion that they be received. So moved. Second. Have a motion in a second. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Earwood?
Yes.
Mr. Hopper?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert? Yes. Mayor Danner?
Yes. Council departmental reports are contained in your packet as well this evening. They give an update and an overview of activity for January 2020. Ms. Susan Howell brings us our financial activity report this evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm pleased to present the financials as of January 31st, 2020. Starting out with our general fund, our year-to-date revenue is $15,650,000. Our year-to-date expenses are $17,730,000, which is 4% over budget. But if you look at the dashboard where we compare actual to benchmark, we do have a negative overall variance of only $501,000 and a strong cash balance of $17,542,000 in the general fund. The hospitality fund year-to-date revenue is $1,454,000. The year-to-date expenses are $1,865,000, and our cash balance in the hospitality fund is $809,000. Lastly, the stormwater fund, the year-to-date revenue is $844,000. The expenses are $928,000, and we have a cash balance in that fund of $1,189,000.
Council, any questions or comments? Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate the information. Folks, if you feel particularly safe this evening, it's because Chief Hamby from our police department is here to present his annual report, and I see a number of folks from the police department that have decided to join us, and we appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. I appreciate the opportunity for us to provide an overview of the many accomplishments that we've had during 2019. I'm very, very proud of what we have accomplished over the past year. As you mentioned, Mayor, we do have quite a few people from our agency here, and I would like to recognize a couple of them, if you would allow. First off, Meredith Gala. She keeps us on task, on track, all the time, every day. Captain Eric Presley. Lieutenant, I'm sorry.
Have a stand up.
Yeah, why don't you please stand up? So Meredith, yeah. Captain Presley, Lieutenant Kara Blackwell, Lieutenant Patrick Fortenberry, Lieutenant Chad Richardson, Lieutenant Chris Varner would be here. He had a death in the family, otherwise I know he would be here this evening. Sergeant Randall Ballinger, Sergeant Forrester, Chris Forrester, and he's not on our staff officially, but I'd like to recognize a great friend of the police department, Mr. Dale Hawley, back here. Yeah, I hope I didn't miss somebody. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Our administration division is led by Lieutenant Fortenberry, and he has the assistance of 2 sergeants, and the functions of the administrative division are community outreach, our special events, supervision of our 5 school resource officers, training of new hires and advanced training as well, and supervision of our records clerk function. In addition, Lieutenant Fortenberry has many other hats he has to wear. He's over our hiring and recruiting functions as well. He also serves as our public information officer, and he heads up our crisis negotiations team as well. I wanted to give you a report on our staffing levels. At the end of 2019, we had 59 sworn officers on staff, and that includes police officers, detectives, supervisors, and command staff members. We had 10 on our telecommunications staff, 6 in detention, 7 full-time, 1 part-time in our administrative functions, and 1 animal control officer. I wanted to share with you just some highlights of our very vast and many community outreach projects that we participate in. In 2019, on August the 1st, we held our National Night Out, which is an annual community building event that promotes police and community partnerships and promotes a spirit for ensuring safe neighborhoods. Our drug take-back program is a safe, convenient, and responsible way to dispose of unused or expired medications or drugs. The Greer PD assists with 2 drug take-back days each year, and of course we also maintain our drug drop-off box in our lobby that's available 24/7, and it's used a lot. Our Cops for Tots program, we entered our 31st year, and it was a very successful program once again. It was as we provided Christmas toys for close to 200 children, and it's our goal that no child in the greater Greer area goes without having Christmas toys for Christmas. We participated in multiple Fist Bump Fridays. We did those in all of the elementary schools in our city: Woodland Elementary, Crestview Elementary, Chandler Creek, and Dunbar Child Development. The goal of the Fist Bump Friday, we have actually 2 goals. The first one, we just want to increase the direct interaction between police officers and kids. Secondly, we just want to put a smile on their face as they come in and get out of the car and start walking into school. I don't think that kid in the bottom left had a smile on his face there, but I think the guy behind him did. So most do, trust me. Our youth cap we held once again, and that is for middle school age kids, and it provides an opportunity for them to learn about the police department and interact with our officers and create new relationships. Our Citizens Police Academy provides a way for our adult members of the community to experience how our organization operates, and they get to be exposed to many behind-the-scenes features of our police department. They get to spend time in our telecommunications, our detention area on our side of the bars, and then they get to participate in ride-alongs as well. And we are, so in 2019 we had 23 graduates. That was our largest class we've ever had. And I'm happy to say we are in week 3 of our newest 2020 class right now, and it again has broken another record. I believe we had 27 that registered. We created a new hiring and recruiting team last year, and this team is currently comprised of 6 members that range in experience from 1 year to 24 years, and the goal of this recruiting team is to attract high-quality prospects to possibly gain employment in our agency. So we have ramped up our presentation at career fairs at colleges, and we've been participating in those. And so we have a really nice display. We bought some promotional items, and we're staying in touch with our high-caliber prospects so that we can stay in touch with them, so that when they finally finish college and they're getting out and actually applying for jobs, they'll keep us in mind. I will say that we're working on a recruiting video, and hopefully you'll see a segment of a different video in just a few minutes that may end up being a part of that video. Our Criminal Investigations Division is led by Lieutenant Varner, and it consists of an analyst, 1 clerk, a detective sergeant, 4 detectives who split general investigation cases, and then we have 2 members of our vice team, and we have 2 victim advocates. And you as a council approved a new position last year, so we added a 2nd victim advocate in 2019. She's doing a fabulous job. I'm very proud to report back to you about the creation of our multi-jurisdictional drug enforcement task force. You may remember last year I came to council and sought authority from you for our agency to enter into this agreement with the other municipalities in Greenville County, along with the Greenville Sheriff's Office and the 13th Circuit Solicitor's Office. So that team is now active. We launched it off officially August the 29th. As you can see, we have a photo of our presser that we did on that day in front of the Greenville Law Enforcement Center. We have about 24 members of that team, and it's broken into 4 smaller teams, and one of our members from Greer is one of the team leaders of one of the 4 teams throughout Greenville County. They have made a significant dent already, and that is they're far exceeding any expectations I would have had within 6 months. They've made many large-scale investigations and arrests, and some of these networks of infiltration of drugs into our community come from areas like Alabama, Virginia, and there was one case that had a nexus to a Mexican cartel directly. So we do think the supply side of the illegal drug market is going to be greatly impacted over time. Very excited about what's ahead in the next few years. Our Operational Support Division, OSD, is led by Lieutenant Blackwell. She's assisted in supervision with 2 sergeants, and their functions include telecommunications, detention, and judicial services and animal control. I'm not going to bore you with numbers tonight. Tried to avoid it, but I do want to point out some significant numbers here from our telecommunications function. Our fire dispatch calls have increased significantly compared to the previous year. So we had a 55% increase. You know, we dispatched over 9,500 fire calls, and that's a lot. Our police calls were pretty steady. We only had about a 1% increase, but overall, because of the additional fire calls, we had an overall increase of almost 23% dispatch calls. You may recall that we implemented an expanded fire dispatch program, so we're now dispatching for Taylor's Fire Department at Bowling Springs, and we have been dispatching part of Pelham-Batesville, in addition to, of course, Greer Fire Department. I'm a little surprised at the increase because that new arrangement we have made with these other fire districts has been in place for more than a year, so I was seeing some offsetting numbers for quite a while, but we should have leveled out a little bit, so we'll keep an eye on that as we move forward. Communications Center was completely renovated during 2019. We removed almost everything from the room. We replaced it with new consoles, new chairs, a new floor, new computers, new wall screens, new paint, and the good news is we anticipate that 80% of those costs will be reimbursed from the state E911 fund. We did a small remodel in a part of our detention center as well. We took what was previously a laundry room and moved those functions to a different section of the detention center, and we took that room and converted it over to an additional holding room. And so that increases our capacity from holding 15 to 18 prisoners. And just as a reminder, we are a 48-hour male-only holding facility. But that's going to help us out tremendously. Our Uniform Patrol Division is led by Lieutenant Richardson. We have 4 patrol teams, 2 of them, Alpha and Bravo, split the daytime hours, and Charlie and Delta teams split the nighttime hours. And we also have a Sergeant Ballinger over our traffic and canine unit. He has 3 traffic officers that are on his team, as well as 2 canine officers. And also, as you can see from this org chart here, that our emergency response team is attached to our uniform patrol team. Our 2 team leaders of that team are sergeants or supervisors amongst our patrol division. In 2019, we responded to over 27,000 calls, and it's a slight decrease from the previous year. Of those, 50% were initiated by victims who called in for help to the police department. 46% were proactive or officer-initiated activity. Captain Presley is responsible for our professional standards function, and that includes maintaining updates to our general orders. He serves as our liaison for all legal matters. He handles all the FOIA requests. He ensures standards are applied to all of our use of force and pursuit incidences, and he tracks each one of those and conducts internal investigations as necessary. And just to report to you, we had over 1,400 people that were physically arrested during 2019, and only 58 of those incidences required any sort of use of force. So 96% of all of our physical arrest situations did not require any kind of use of control or use of force. And most of those that did were just simply using hands for grips and that type of thing. We didn't have to discharge a firearm once during the previous year, and rarely had to actually deploy a taser. Looking at reported crime in the city of Greer for 2019, we have shown a decrease over the previous 4 years. So I have the blue line that you see at the top of the graph represents the total reported crime, and that's grouping together crimes against persons, crimes against property, crimes against society, and then the miscellaneous Group B offenses as well. So we only saw an increase in our crimes against persons, so we did have an increase for that during 2019, but otherwise, every other category we saw a decrease. So I'm very happy with that. We are seeing very similar numbers in our neighboring jurisdictions. Overall, crime rate nationally has been going down, and if you watch television, that's going to be hard to believe, but it has been the case for the last 5 to 10 years. I want to share with you a few of our goals for 2020. We want to begin building our new weapons range. We'll initiate a new program called Project Safe Neighborhoods, and I hope to share more information with you in the future about that. We want to begin a program for imaging all of our paper records, and that is a massive undertaking as we've started looking into that. And we want to reassess our patrol division camera technology that we're using. We are now at a point where we're going to have to invest into some other upgrades to our current systems. You know how technology works. You have to replace it with the next one. And so we're looking at trying to combine some of the storage platforms for both of our in-car camera systems and our body-worn camera systems, and maybe some cloud storage in lieu of buying more network storage and that type of thing. So we want to have a complete assessment of that over the next year. And finally, I would like to talk about our drone program, which I'm most proud of over the past year. We, during 2018, the previous year, we had been doing quite a bit of research on what it would take to start a drone program. So in 2019, we actually purchased our equipment. So we have four drone aircraft, and 2 of those are equipped with thermal imaging. And we also researched the best way to go with our new policy, so we have a policy in place. And we also have a training program. And I think our training program is almost being set as a model for other agencies in the area. We've partnered with Sundance Media, and we have trained 7 of our personnel as FAA certified Part 107 remote pilots. So we now have the personnel trained, we have the policy in place, and the equipment purchased. So the program is still new. We've done lots of training with it. Deployments are still going to be in the future. We have used it on a few cases, and I'm very excited with what we can do that in the future. So we do anticipate being able to assist with finding missing people, whether they be a missing child or a wanted person who's fleeing from us. I do believe we can use it for crime scene documentation and assist us with our media and public information, and also assist with our K-9 program when they're conducting searches. The capabilities are endless, I think, for our agency. We're going to also use the drones in the near future for crime scene reconstruction using a program called Pix4D. And so we can do a digital reconstruction of crime scenes by implementing that along with our photos that are obtained through the drones. That concludes what I had to present tonight. I do have our staff here, as I mentioned, ready to answer any questions. Sergeant Ballinger, I must mention, is dying for you to ask questions about the drones. So please welcome that.
Councilman. Chief, if we could revisit professional standards for just a minute. I know there was a point in time that there was some discussion about some certifications that we were getting through professional organizations and that sort of thing that I think we discontinued at some point in time. Are you and your command staff satisfied with how things are going and what has transpired since then? And do we plan to have any outside reviews of the department as part of what we're doing in regards to our professional standards?
I appreciate the question, actually. Put a lot of thought into that. Is just to give you a history of what did transpire. Chief Reynolds, my predecessor, at the time, probably made a decent decision to let our CALIA certification just kind of run its course. Some of the re-inspections of the on-sites that we were having to get every 3 years were getting more confusing and rigorous and almost counterproductive. They were making us change some of the forms we use for whatever reason the personal assessor had in mind. So we found that we were throwing a lot of money each year to the tune of about $17,000 at a program that wasn't really getting us anywhere forward. And we were spending a lot of extra effort to maintain those 435 standards. Times have changed. So I do think after 2014, after the Ferguson, Missouri incident, and then, the Eric Garner incident, and then, the Schlager incident in North Charleston, things have changed a lot in law enforcement, and I do think the public expectation and the public insight into our operations has changed so much since then. Again, I do think that was a reasonable decision that was made at the time. I do think, however, we are going to need to become accredited once again. I do believe that we're going to have, I'm sorry, Mr. Bettis, the resources to make that happen. Accreditation has gotten more complicated since then, and I think we've grown past that 75 employee mark where our standards it's a new set of standards in addition. So we are going to have to stop putting more hats on people, and to do it properly and to do it correctly, I think we're going to have to allocate some resources. So that's my opinion.
Is the CALIA benchmark in terms of
there's
certification, or are there others?
There's another one, and that's there's a state accreditation as well. But the standards are very similar. My understanding, unless things have changed, that if you have your CALIA accreditation, all you have to do is fill out the paperwork. You're going to be state accredited as well. So that is another option to look at that might be a little less complicated, a little less expensive.
In terms of the new gun range, what did we decide for a final location? Where is the new home?
Hope to have an answer for you by our budget submission. So we do have one site that's been on Lister Road that's a CPW owned property. We just need to solidify that with CPW. I do think they have other plans for the property, and I'm hoping that they'll still be able to work us into that overall plan. So we're going to talk about that. There is another piece of property that would offer us a lot more room for growth in the future, and would be a much bigger footprint than the 2 acres that's offered at Lister Road. It does have a higher price tag, of course, but so we'll submit, what we think is a good plan. We are presently working with an engineer to get us some really good estimate numbers for the cost of the project. But we're very much looking forward to moving forward with the range project. We've been piecing together locations to train, and that's getting more challenging as each month goes on.
May I ask General Ballinger a question?
Please do.
Go ahead. Amazing capabilities with the drones. Any software or use predicted for the drones in terms of accident reconstruction?
Yes, sir, it's in that same program suite, Fix 4D. It takes where it is now. For instance, the one we had in front of Target, we ended up closing lanes between 3 to 4 hours while we manually mapped that with what would be considered a multi-analyte system. To do that with a drone would take between 4 and 6 minutes, and it was produced by 80 data points. all here that we can use to do things.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Others?
I'd just like to say thank you to all of you police officers. We certainly appreciate your job, and you're keeping our city safe. We appreciate you very much. Don't get the opportunity to thank you very much. Don't see you that often. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll move to the administrator's report. Mr. Driggers?
Thank you, sir. Only a couple of items. One is to remind you that your economic interest applications forms are due in April, so please make sure that you're putting that on your calendar. Penalties are stiff if you should overlook those deadlines, so we'll be continuing to send you reminders, most affectionately referred to as your ethics reports, but please make sure that we're getting those in on time.
Normally it's April 15th, isn't it?
Didn't
they change
that? I think they changed it.
Was it March 30th?
March 30th. March 30th. Thank you very much. March 30th is the new deadline. They moved it up from April 15th. Yes, yes. As a reminder, those must be completed online. That's the only way of submitting those. If you need any assistance whatsoever, please let myself or Tammy know, Ms. Duncan. We'll make sure that we get you the assistance that you need. Yeah, the change of the date as well as making sure that we don't have any late ones being submitted. Myself and a team from our city was able to travel to Columbia earlier today. We made a presentation in the communications category for Municipal Achievement Awards. It was very well received. We'll be looking forward to the results of that here shortly, but I certainly wanted you to know that we had a great opportunity to do that. Our partner with Greer CPW, our partner with the Greer Station Association, Chamber of Commerce, obviously Steve Owens directing our communications efforts here at the city. We were able to make that presentation. It is amazing what we have accomplished when you stop long enough to look at the results. And so we were very, very pleased in making that application, and as soon as we're able to communicate the results of that, we'll certainly do that. But I wanted you to know that we went and made that presentation earlier today. Calendar items are our normal meeting schedules and those items, so no real update on any of that. Certainly available to answer any questions you may have at this time. Our staff, either this evening that are staff members that are present, myself, or any information we need to gather for you as we continue to move forward. Do let me say thank you for your time last week. You worked over duty, overtime and over duty. It was a busy 2 days in a planning retreat. Those are so extremely helpful to your staff as we start to prepare work plans, our strategic plans, our budgets for the coming year. Feedback is always needed in that. If there's ways that we can improve that process, please share that with us. We're always looking for process improvement. But thank you for your time. It was a long 2 days, and your commitment is what made that successful. So I really do appreciate your time. That concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. We'll move to appointments of boards and commissions. We have a opening on the Planning Commission that has been open since Mr. Hopper joined us here on the council. Do you have a nomination for that seat as yet, Mr. Hopper?
Not officially yet, Mr. Mayor. Shared with council at our last meeting. Do have someone to talk to. I believe would do a good job. He's been in transition into a new employment opportunity just within the last few days, and so actually spoke with him today, and he assured me that he would have an official answer one way or the other to me within the next couple days.
Thank you, sir. Recreation Association Board of Trustees has an opening in District 4. Councilman Dumas, do you have a recommendation for us this evening?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do. I'd like to appoint Trevor Hoffman. He is the lead pastor at the church at Greer Station. He is also a flag football coach. I think he's coached with Mr. Hopper this past season. I heard he did a really good job, and He lives in District 4, right around the corner from me in Burgess Hills, so he's close by, and the church is active in the chamber, and he's willing and able to serve, and his kids are participating in the recreation program, so I'd like to nominate Trevor Hall.
Comes as a nomination. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Earwood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert.
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, let's move to items of old business, the first of which is the second and final reading of ordinance number 1-2020. This is the second supplemental bond ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of not exceeding $2.8 million to the City of Greer, South Carolina, accommodations tax and hospitality tax revenue bond series 2020 and other matters related thereto. Mr. Seifert, information in that regard, please, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the second reading ordinance. We passed first reading in the last meeting. At that time, the ordinance was blank. It did not have the information from the bond itself. We received the proposals last Thursday, and the low bid came in from Sterling National Bank at a rate of 2.48%. So we have inserted that information into this ordinance for the second reading, and this ordinance will allow us for the completion and closing of the bond ordinance that is for the local hospitality tax, local accommodations tax revenue. Is the revenue source to repay this bond. It will allow us to reimburse ourselves for the purchase of the golf course and the former, or soon to be former maybe, Greer Golf and Country Club, and then for proceeds for renovations and repairs of that facility.
Council, this comes as a recommendation from staff. I'll entertain a motion to receive.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. The floor is open for discussion. Comments? Questions? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Earwood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert.
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Second item before us this evening is the second and final reading of ordinance number 2-2020. This is an ordinance that changes the zoning classification of property owned by Professional Pharmacy of Greer located on Sunnyside Drive from C2 commercial to RM1 residential multifamily. This comes as a second reading. Any additional or new information in that regard?
No, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Having no new information, I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So motion.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion in that regard? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Earwood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis.
Yes.
Ms. Albert.
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Have the second and final reading of ordinance number 3-2020, an ordinance to change the zoning classification of property owned by Pierce Properties LLC located on Brushy Creek Road from DRD to C2. Comes as the second reading before council. Any new or additional information in that regard?
No, sir.
No new information in regards to ordinance number 3-2020. I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion, a second. Floor is open for discussion. Questions? Comments? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Earwood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis.
Yes.
Ms. Albert.
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council will move to items of new business this evening, the first of which is the first reading of ordinance number 4-2020. This is an ordinance to provide for the annexation of property owned by Robert Brown located at 948 Old Jones Road by 100% petition and to establish a zoning classification of I-1 for said property. An update or information in that regard, please?
Sure. So this is a new annexation request. The docket number is AN 2020-01. The applicant is Becknell Industrial LLC. The address is 948 Old Jones Road. Parcel ID number for the record is 5-29-00-041.00. And they also will request a zone to I-1 industrial. This is an aerial of the site. It's slightly under 3 acres. The area kind of right to the north of it and to the west is also Becknell property. The intent would be to combine and develop industrial along with an annexation that you heard and approved last July, I believe. This is kind of a zoning map of the surrounding area, predominantly I-1 industrial in the city, and again, it will be combined with the rest of that Becknell property. This is the future land use map. The comprehensive plan does identify this area as an employment center. And then that is all the information I have for you at this time, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, ma'am. For the purpose of discussion, do I hear a motion to receive first reading of ordinance number 4-2020?
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion. Questions?
Do we know what was the name of you say there is a company that a manufacturing company that owns this parcel?
Becknell Industrial.
What do they do?
I am not certain. They're an industrial. And I believe the applicant is here. If you'd like to, if you'd like to hear from them. I'm sure they can speak to it much better than I can.
Gentlemen, if y'all will identify yourselves, please, that would be a help as a matter of record.
Joel Repsack with Becknell Industrial.
And Dan Esteban with Stantec Consulting Services.
Glad to have you with us.
So Dan's my civil engineer, and we are a commercial industrial real estate company. We own about 175 warehousing type facilities over the country in 33 states, give or take 25 million square feet, I believe. And we're developers, long-term leaseholders, and we're looking to. We had some really good luck in this Spartanburg, Greenville area, and we're looking to keep our developments going.
So you were thinking you're going to develop it as logistics?
So yeah, right now we have a master plan. It's got a 4-building concept, ranging from 156,000 square feet to a little over 300,000 square feet. It's planned for now as spec development, so we'll design it to be relatively flexible so we can react to what the market desires. But should a request for proposal or a new tenant come along, it could very easily switch to a build-to-suit.
Others? Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate your time. I have a motion and then a second. Any other discussion or questions in that regard? Comments? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Aaronwood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert. Yes. Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, we have the first reading of ordinance number 5-2020, an ordinance approving a major change to a design review district of certain real property inside the city of Greer. This is in regards to the Victor project. Ms. Cotty, I believe you'll need to give us some additional information and some oversight as to that change and a path forward, please, ma'am.
Sure, absolutely. Again, this is a major change request to an approved DRD. The docket number is RZ 2020-03. The applicant is Scout Realty Group. This is on Victor Avenue near the intersection of Old Woodruff Road, Hardin Street, and 26th Street. And I'll show you an aerial of the site in just a second, but I think you're all familiar with it. Parcel ID numbers for the record 9-04-05-003. 00, 9-04-05-003.01, and 9-04-06-147.01. And again, major revision to a DRD. This is an aerial of the site, again, at the intersections that I mentioned. This is a zoning map of the area. As I mentioned, this was approved last year by the board as a DRD, Design Review District. This is the future land use map, the area surrounding. The site is predominantly residential land use 3. It's also located in a neighborhood center. This is the proposed site plan that goes along with the DRD revision. And this is a proposed rendering that's also attached as an exhibit. And then just a summary of the statement of intent, which has most of the changes. So originally, this DRD was approved last year, and there were, it was approved with up to 250 townhomes and then a small portion of commercial up to 25,000 square feet. The major revision includes a proposed 4-story apartment complex with up to 330 units, and that's on that kind of big portion of the site, and then to the north across the street up to 40 rear-loaded townhomes. Both of these would be for-rent products and include amenities such as a pool and 2-story fitness center. The density is coming in at slightly over 15 units per acre, and approximately 30% is dedicated to open space. They do have amenities, both usable and passive space identified. Exterior buffers, they're proposing 15 feet, and we do have in the statement of intent that all of the HVAC units that are along Victor Avenue will have to be screened. In terms of building materials, they are proposing a fiber cement, hardy plank, or similar type board with brick accents. And then we did work with the applicant to get them to include that their lighting plan be approved by a Greer police department who's trained with SEPTED, which is just safety aspect. In terms of parking, they're proposing 1.7 spaces per unit for the apartments, and then a pretty standard 2 per unit for the townhomes, and again, those are rear-loaded. Infrastructure, these will all be private interior roads, and then most of the other roads are county or SCDOT. There will be exterior and interior sidewalks, and there will be a traffic impact study that will be reviewed and approved by SCDOT. So that is all the information I have. I am happy to answer questions. I know the applicant is also here and has a presentation if you are open to that.
By show of hands, is the owner of the property and/or the developer with us this evening? All right, if you'll be prepared to answer any questions we might have, council will entertain a motion to receive for the purpose of discussion. Second. Have a motion, a second. Floor is open for discussion or questions.
Go back up to the aerial view.
Absolutely.
Right there, well, right there. What's that little red trapezoid in there?
It is another parcel, and the applicant can maybe explain further, but it was a parcel that I believe,
Duke.
it was Duke.
That was where the power line terminated to the mill and was owned by Duke. Duke has signed a deed, and I believe it's already been deeded back over to Swanberg originally, so it comes in.
Okay. Thank you.
So to the rendering of the unit, is that from the original or is that the updated one?
This is from the current proposed major change.
Okay.
This is showing a proposed rendering of the apartment complex.
Okay.
If council would allow it, if they could do the presentation, we could share a bit of some recommendations that we made.
Can I ask if you were prepared to do that?
That would be excellent. Thank you.
And before I turn it over to the applicant, I did want to let you know, staff does recommend approval, and Planning Commission held a public hearing on January 27th and recommended denial. And let me pull up the presentation from the applicant.
If you
Is that recommendation from the commission binding?
So per the DRD ordinance, council is the approval-making authority for a DRD major revision. So it is advisory in this capacity.
Thank you. Gentlemen, you want to tee up your presentation for us? While we check out Jim's children.
This time, Jim.
Next time, Jim, we want you.
How about this, So, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with everybody here tonight. I met with Mr. Driggers, and in that meeting, we discussed just some things that we could do with the architecture and what we were intending to put there, and then some of the suggestions had, the older imagery maybe had somewhat of a coastal flair, and that might have really been a reflection, because that's where some of these buildings have already been built. And so out of that, we try to take some of the imagery from, and some of the design character of the towers here on Town Hall, which my understanding is you guys took some cues from the old mill site itself as well. The color, we tried to match some of the tone of that color with, again, some of the imagery we saw in the old mill. And so that brick color should have some of that tone. I do have some images. Again, what this is a 4-story with an elevator, which is not your normal apartment building. Usually you can see a garden style. Dragon Landing is with Orange Capital. Orange Capital is the partner on this project. They have built this a number of times in the low country, and so as they continue to build the same building, they kind of, perfected their model. And so I was going to show some images of the actual built units in the low country, just so you can see the quality of what is going to go here, because really the quality is probably a lot of why we change gears. It's going to allow us to do something that just far exceeds the quality of the townhomes we had originally talked about. The townhomes that we'll do across the street will still carry on that quality into those townhomes. Instead of having a vinyl sided community, we're going to have, again, the upgraded finishes on all these. This is, I believe, this is Carolina Forest near Myrtle Beach. This is a completed building. Again, the architectural cues are different, but the actual building itself and the bones is going to be the same type building. This is the pool amenity. Daytime painting. Just again showing some of the open space, the common areas space that they have available for the people that are renting there. This is, I guess, a clubhouse area. Again, this is a different community, I believe, common area in the clubhouse. Just some outdoor pavilions. The gyms are very nice gyms. They have, obviously, all community children. This is just an example of an interior space in one of the units. Different unit. Just, show you a little bit of what quality what they're putting on ground. Any questions on?
We got a tentative idea on mix 1, 2, and 3, or just 1 and 2?
We tried to plan with Orange Capital partner Chris on this, and so typically this is a product we built in North Charleston in the hillside area, also which is kind of similar makeup to the market here. I'm familiar with being on the street, 24 down there. You have the door, and so honestly, the mix, if you're looking at it kind of brings back to the range a little bit, depending on the season. So sometimes ones are really popular, and then 6 months later, 2 is really popular. And a lot of times spring months and 3. So we just approach it from a standpoint of 10% 3s, and then what's remaining is 50-50. And that way, you always have something. Potential market swings. And then we have studios that are really popular, and that's kind of our starting point. Studio is just a bedroom, kitchen. It's a really good entry level, and you see a lot of people remake situations in 2s. a good product. You know, we tend to beat out the competition in those markets. We put in overhead in the kitchens. We have stainless steel appliances. We offer smooth range cooktops, so it's not a big deal, but compared to a coil range, start to add some increased line package. The elevators are really big, and so my company, Orange Capital, is developing for a contractor. We're able to kind of pull best practices from the deals that they deal on a third-party basis. And we take those into this, and it really provides a lot of efficiencies for us to increase the quality of the project. So the corridors are smooth concrete, the wall is trimmed out, nice paint job. It really feels kind of a resort style. So we're really pleased with it. We've gotten really good interest from investors, and not just local investors and out-of-state investors. They're coming to us with requests to invest in this product, and I think that's a testament to what we're doing. They kind of recognize it as a big emerging market, and I think that when Chris and I first started talking, just the linear nature of the site, our building, fitting something that should be there for the storage, kind of married out real well. And so Chris and I were excited about it, and everyone here is excited about it too.
What's the price range?
So we're talking off of this project, residences over the Central Park, so it would be commensurate with those. And so pretty conservative by nature. Kind of I like to come in and look at existing projects, so we can come in and continue at the same level and provide superior product. There's no reason we shouldn't be successful.
What you've got here looks wonderful.
Yes, it does.
And I think it'd be great for that area. But you mentioned you built this, the picture you're showing in North Charleston, you mentioned the Boeing corridor. And I get, we've got the same mix of industry and things like that. But you're putting, and I think it's great that it's going here. So, but my question is, in North Charleston, was your product put in the same type of neighborhood?
Not there, because that area is still maturing from a development standpoint. They're trying to get a lot of apartments in the area. But we're building the same product in North Common and Myrtle Beach. It's front and center neighborhood. It looks wonderful. Really pleased with the interest that we've got there. And then one of the projects here on the north, also Myrtle Beach. That's in the neighborhood. It just fits in real well. And so the one common, which is their town center, is on our corner. It's probably one of the most visible projects that you see. There's actually a long drive in, if you've ever been down North Common. And so there's about a 5 to 10 second kind of sight line of that tower. And it's really impressive. And so we got a lot of comments from that. And so I think what working with the staff is to kind of figure out how to set the buildings up, make some adjustments from the previous land plan when we first met with them, to kind of have a little bit of movement, put a tower on the park corner that opens up to the park area. We also have one of the lounges will be on the fourth floor looking at that park. We'll take care of the park as part of our responsibility, but it'll be a passive park to the community, so it won't be blocked off or anything. It won't be public. The city had to take care of it, but it's just good. So feel like it's something that's kind of testament to the history of the community, and it's been nice for us.
Others?
Is that like a good quality product? Is that enough parking for apartments?
Yeah, so I from my standpoint, I can do some sleepover parking. wonder, so I've been to our projects at nighttime, 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock is a great time. I always kind of circle back over the area, just to kind of see, you can kind of see, you know, that there's available parking at the edges, that generally means that there's sufficient parking. We're going to congregate close to the buildings. The ratio that we have here is on par with what we've done elsewhere. We've had no issues with parking. So, and that just works out well. A lot of times you get 2 per, and so 0.3 units parking requirements across 300 units is 90 spaces. It's a lot of asphalt that don't necessarily use parking lots. It's a key on the fact that contribute additional stormwater. So generally speaking, a lot of the plans recognize that yes, if you've got history with something and you're happy with it, then that's what it is.
Is there any extra storage or garages or anything like that on site?
Yeah, so we've got 3 buildings, and each of those buildings has 6 garages and then units above. So residents will be able to rent their garages separately, and within those garage buildings, there are storage units. So we got to get those. Kind of shape. It has been inside the building, set off the large buildings. We have units public.
So remember, units here, garage areas.
Our leasing office, fitness center, everything's internal, is built, so it really kind of builds a bit urban in some sense, which I think works extremely well here, because we're also counting the fact that it's somewhat along the back downtown. And there's just seeing the one clubhouse, it looks very 1980s, right? You've got the clubhouse, whole, this is kind of what's there, is very resort feeling, that leads to a fire pit, very nice with the water of that creek line there. And so I think when it's all said and done, it'll feel really nice. And so, I've said it before, and over something that is creative community, and every place that I've been, is kind of what I've seen as far as
Is your group part of the town home project, or is that separate?
Yeah, we would be part of that. So we're going to look to capitalize the entire thing with the same group, and then Chris is working on that. So our management staff will grant the town hotels a separate project.
And so the parking with the townhomes, you said, is that rear entry, is what?
So that would be this side, the parking, so the entry here is rear-loaded townhomes. So the townhomes are all clustered on this portion.
Okay, so they come in on the loop, and you're saying they're facing
the street.
Yeah, they'll face the street, they'll be pushed out the street with parking in the rear.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
So, they lay out on the side, area of the street, street rotation, and requested that part of the drive, which is later. There's an existing drive, parking lot there.
So they'll have to come in on Wilson.
That's right. That's where our traffic studies.
Then that past part he was mentioning is we're going to leave, this was originally to be a commercial parcel, now this will just be open space area. And then within here, there's several others, program probably no parking, sort of strategically using some of these areas. We still got, believe it or not, there's quite a bit of the middle area on the site. We're going to figure out how to relocate and move around to get it out from under paths and buildings, et cetera. And then there's some concrete structures down in the creek, I guess, around the old dam to the middle, or to the pond in the middle. So we've got some areas where we can use to keep that elevation on site, out of the paths and buildings.
Speaking of the traffic study, our consultant did look at comparison of this version versus the previous one that involved from council, and the peak traffic jam is less than this, just the commercial the traffic jam. So that's in the report that talked about.
We also see an opportunity that to attach to their infrastructure, their sidewalk infrastructure, being able for us to connect residents in this area to downtown. Also gives us the ability to connect to Veterans Park, as well as a connection over to the Center for the Arts. And so we certainly see this as an opportunity to develop part of that pedestrian infrastructure that we're desiring to do.
One other point, there was a comment made about the inclusion of residents or renters living in the community and whether or not they become part of the fabric. And we, if you've ever heard of a CARES team, it's a group, Christian-based organization that will put a couple on property. They get a free unit. Before that, they go every time they do winter, they go introduce themselves, give them a care package, and they're also responsible for planning events. And usually they're doing some sort of community outreach as part of that, something like this, or adoption program, invite them in, and third parties, and see who all want to adopt party or street. It's a really good organization. We like it because it builds community within our apartment project, and the dollar side is the other uses the nutrition and balance. So the longer we can keep people happy on the project, the less expensive it is to have insurance payments and do other things. So we really feel like we're going to part of it. And do a really awesome job lately and trying to lay out awareness. So it's not just coming in and slapping us vinyl signage to the wall of apartments. So we tend to, I think, go a little farther than most of it.
It's not going to be called Lively Victor Park, is it?
Well, the Lively is sort of our brand, and so
Interesting way to pose a question.
It just doesn't do it for me.
it's got their own trademark process. We found that with apartments, a lot of folks were building them for millennials. They found out that older demographic, retired folks, really were drawn to the community aspect. My mom lived in one in Columbia for a while, and she enjoyed the mess out of it. And so, what we found is kind of a barbell demographic. We have younger folks, 20 and 30 year olds, before they really formed a household, started having children, and then older 50, 60, 70 year olds that are looking to downsize, sell their house, kind of like reverse mortgage without living in their house. Somebody else takes care of all the maintenance. So the Lively kind of speaks to that person who's young, or looking for a vibrant community to live in, or an older person who's also looking for a vibrant pasture of the senior housing complex. So we get a lot of folks that are coming like, we're living here restaurant, and they're not good at continuing care place down the street. And so that's where the name is at right now. It's just trying to attract
Probably the majority of us sitting up here may be going down there.
And I kind of feel like I missed out on the wave of new apartments. I was getting out of school, and everything was just that hole in the ground, concrete pools, slab chairs, and then the economy hit, recession. I think a lot of projects that were built condo levels got converted, so they kind of reset the bar and expectations of what people look for. And we've gotten good at building that in other markets. And I think we can sit that here and deliver something that really is showcase.
Anything else, council? Thank you for your time, gentlemen. We appreciate the presentation. Ms. Duncan, remind me where we are in the process. Do I have a motion and a second?
Yes.
Floor was open for discussion. Anything else, Ms. Cotty, in regards to this project?
No, not unless you have questions.
Okay. Anything of staff? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Earwood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert, yes, Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, in executive session this evening, we have got two matters to consider. I'll entertain a motion that those matters be considered.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session to discuss a personnel matter pertaining to the administration department as allowed by state statute section 30-470A1, and also a motion to enter into executive session to discuss a legal matter as allowed by state statute section 30-470A2.
Comes as a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Earwood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert, yes, Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, in executive session, we considered two matters. One was a personnel matter related to the administration department as allowed by state statute. The other was a legal matter that was allowed by state statute as well. We've taken no action in regards to either of those matters. Do I hear a motion to come out of executive session?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Earwood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert, yes, Mayor Danner.
Yes. Stand adjourned.